Hello family, it's me, Major Melanin. I am back here at Hey Healer, the place to be for all of your holistic needs. I am here and I am going to introduce you to a wonderful, wonderful lady. And I don't know your name right this second.
Can we get
Dr. Tracy Dorsey. Okay.
I like that introduction.
Got you. Here we are with Tracy Dorsey, and we want to learn more about what she has to offer for Hey Healer because I hear she's a doctor. Let's listen close.
Well, I started off in Western medicine, and Western medicine says that we put a whole lot of band-aids on situations. We also love microwave health. So here at Hey Healers, we're more centered around finding out the cause of the problems. We're detectives, and I think you do a little bit of detecting because you do some farming.
Yes, so when you said root of the problem, that's what I was
That's
totally
right.
thinking about, because we also get to the root of the problem because I'm a farmer. I'm your favorite farmer because you don't know no other farmer. However, come on down so we can show you how to regrow from your grocery store. You don't have to be the farmer that I am. You don't have to use a plow, or you don't have to get dirty. Maybe you don't like insects, but you can go to the grocery store like you like to, and then you can come home and actually regrow that produce and you can be healthier. We are going to make sure together that we have 5 herbs that are always available for people to
So
use.
it's going to be, this is a new campaign that we got together, and we want to get 5 herbs on your windowsill, and let's use those to cook, to use them for healing, and we're going to show you how to do that. So we have to be careful about what we put into this temple, because what you put in is exactly what you're going to get out. Doesn't that happen in farming?
It definitely happens in farming, because once I put something in the soil, I expect for it to reap the best benefits. So when I put something in my body, I want to reap the best benefits that I can possibly reap. So I want you to do the same, and you can't do it any place else in the Dallas Metroplex, because there is no place other than Hey Healer. So hey girl.
All right, guys.
Toodles.
Come on in.
Good evening and welcome to Hey Healers. This is our second installment of our Holistic Community Wellness Lecture Series. And we have first up our good Dr. Jeffrey Hubbard is going to give us a little lecture. And today's episode is all about the gut health. And the gut is really your engine of the body, so we need to understand what's going on in that area of our bodies, what we're putting into that area of our bodies, and how we can get some control over that system, since it is such an important aspect of not just our physical health, but our mental health, our nervous system health, and all of the above, the parts of the body. So my name is Ples Montgomery. I'm going to guide you through this whole experience. We got some great presentations for you that's going to allow you to understand yourself better and empower you to take care of yourself so much better. So please sit back, relax. We thank you for joining us, and Dr. Hubbard?
Yes, sir.
Take it away,
Hey
brother.
guys, the lecture is going to be called Trust Your Gut. This is the first of 2 installments about how important it is to take care of your gastrointestinal system. So what we're going to do today is we're going to kind of run through the track. Okay, don't laugh at me, but this is my schematic, right? This is going to help us explain each and every organ that's located in the GI system and kind of what it does and why it's so valuable and why it's so important. All right, so first things first. Where does digestion begin, and why is digestion so important? Okay, so why do we eat? We eat in order to fuel our bodies. All right, so we want to put the highest quality fuel into our Ferrari. You wouldn't take your Ferrari to Jiffy Lube to get the oil change. You wouldn't put 85 octane in it. So it's so important to have high quality nutritious foods that are going to be digested properly. So it's not just important to eat high quality foods, but it's also important to ensure that your body is properly digesting them, okay? One does not happen without the other. You can have a perfect digestive system and put in poor, crappy foods and not get a good outcome. You can have really good nutritious foods and not digest them properly and still have a poor outcome. So both of those are going to go hand in hand with each other. So first things first, where does digestion begin? Most people would say, oh, Dr. Hubbard, it happens in the stomach, or happens in the small intestine, or somewhere like that. It actually starts within your mouth as you begin to chew. That process is called mastication. Even the molars in the back of your teeth are called masticators, all right? So they tear and break down food and mix it with salivary juice, right? And it's going to come from a bunch of different enzymes, primarily amylase, all right? So amylase is produced here in your salivary glands, and it's going to move into the mouth, and it's going to mix as you begin to chew and masticate that food, all right? At that point, that chewed up food is going to pass the pharynx and go down the esophagus, all right? The esophagus is our tube that connects our stomach to our mouth, all right? During that process, there's something called peristalsis. You guys can say peristalsis with me.
Peristalsis.
All right, wonderful. So, peristalsis is just a fancy word for propelling food down the tube. All right, so it's a massaging, muscular, rhythmic sensation that helps to propel food starting here down the esophagus and throughout the rest of the gastrointestinal system. So that's really important because we don't control that. We don't say, hey brain, conduct peristalsis. We don't say, hey brain, stomach churn, right? This has to take place on its own through an involuntary system called the autonomic nervous system, which is controlled by a whole host of things. So it's important that that peristalsis process takes place, all right? So then it gets down into the stomach. So what's in the stomach? Stomach acid, right? Cool. So that stomach acid is so important as the next process of digestion because that stomach acid is mixing with the chewed food that's been peristaltically pushed down into the stomach, all right? So as that process takes place, it's mixing with all that stomach acid and getting more and more broken down. This is where protein breakdown begins to occur because it takes the longest. Unfortunately, when we digest meat and eat meat, it takes a very long time for it to actually break down into what we call macromolecules, which can be absorbed once we get a little bit further down the track, okay? So the next step is that churned up food begins to move into the small intestine. Now, the small intestine is a show pony, guys. This is the most important part of the GI tract. Why? Because this is actually where absorption takes place. So all along the small intestine, there are blood vessels. And those blood vessels are responsible for taking up the broken down nourishment and putting it into the bloodstream and moving it around the body so that all of our cells will have fuel and be nourished, okay? So that's really important. So there's several organs here that participate in the process of breaking down that digested food into small macromolecules. What are macromolecules? Let's talk about glucose, fructose, sucrose. Those are our main carbohydrate breakdowns. When we talk about protein, we talk about amino acids, all right? And then when we talk about fats, we talk about fatty acids and glycerol. So those are things that can be absorbed. They're small enough to be absorbed in the small intestine. We can't just break down a piece of pizza. We can't absorb that. It has to be broken down into very small pieces that actually go across that blood vessel barrier, okay? So that's really important. So here we have the liver and the gallbladder. These two, they actually work together to produce something called bile. All right, say that with me, bile.
Bile.
All right, so bile is responsible for breaking down fats. So a huge component of what we eat involves fat, especially here in America. We have pretty fatty American diets, okay? So something very common, we see something called cholecystitis or inflamed gallbladder disease. This is very common, it requires a surgery in most instances because people aren't aware that it's their diet really that's contributing to some of our organs not functioning quite right. So anyway, this bad boy gets inflamed. It's really powerful, it's really painful. People they go to the emergency room. It's a pretty easy diagnosis. Usually when you touch in and around the liver, they're coming off the table in pain. So you find that out because the bile gets blocked and it doesn't allow it to enter into the small intestine and help to digest this food. All right, cool. Another key component is the pancreas. This bad boy right here. The pancreas is one of our major organs. Why? Because it produces two key hormones, glucagon and insulin. I think we know about insulin because people use synthetic insulin when they develop end-stage type 2 diabetes or they've had type 1 diabetes from childhood or from sort of infection or injury or something to the pancreas. But anyway, that insulin is very valuable in regards to moving glucose from the bloodstream into the cells. If that does not happen, that's literally the definition of type 2 diabetes, okay? So that's a very important organ. It also secretes several other enzymes similar to the ones that the salivary glands produce to break down starches, proteins, and fats. All right, so as we continue down the small intestine, now all of that food now is broken down and is absorbed along the way down the small intestine. All right, cool. So once we move over into the large intestine's responsibility is to remove water. So it's going to absorb water. So now this is a huge component as well, because this is the area that gets most disease frequently. All right, this is where we have constipation. This is where we have diverticulitis. This is where we have inflammatory bowel disease, or celiac, which is an abnormal allergy to gluten. So all of that takes place here in the large intestine. But it normally is because there's not enough water. We don't drink enough water to absorb that water there. All right, so let's make a little note. So water is going to come out along here. All right, so what's the major thing that people complain about in regards to having a bowel movement? We have diarrhea, right? So that means that not enough water was absorbed. There's too much water still in the colon, which means we're going to have a watery bowel movement. If too much water is absorbed, we have constipation, which means it causes us to strain and have a really hard time actually having a bowel movement. So that's what's really important about that regulation of water from the large intestine. So we'll talk more about the types of illnesses that we see on a consistent basis, right? So finally, we exit out, okay, here in the rectum and anus. The rectal vault contains feces until you're ready to have a bowel movement, and obviously it passes through the anus as you're having the bowel movement. But obviously we want to have healthy bowel movements, because if our sewer system of our body is not clean, you can imagine what happens. So think about a city. If the drainage system and all of that, the sewer system is blocked up, what do we have happen? We have a flood. All right. All of this backed up waste, all of this rainwater, all of the trash and stuff that's on the street, it washes up into the yards, it washes up into the street and on the sidewalks. It's very messy. So that's essentially what happens here if we don't have a clean colon, a clean GI system. We have backup, and that's called auto-intoxication, all right? So that's really important. Auto-intoxication can actually make us physically sick. So literally we're full of it, right? So we have to consistently clean out in order to ensure that we're not full of it, all right? So let's talk about a few of the diseases that happens along the way. So one key place is right here at the bottom of the esophagus. All right, so one of the first things that we're going to talk about is gastroesophageal reflux. That's one of the main issues that people talk to me about, is why I have this heartburn, I have this pain, especially right before I eat. When I get hungry, I get this burning sensation. That's because stomach acid is pushing its way up into the esophagus. This tissue is drastically different than the tissue inside of the stomach. Here along the inside of the stomach, there is a mucus coat, and this helps to protect the lining of the stomach from the acid that's required to break down the food we discussed. All right, so this is heartburn. If you burn the inside of the stomach, that's called a stomach ulcer. All right, so this happens with the bacteria, often with the infection of a bacteria called H. pylori, which diminishes that mucus lining and creates a way by which that stomach acid can burn the lining of our stomach. Okay, so that's also a reversible issue as well, just like the gastric esophageal reflux. Okay, we talked here about cholecystitis or inflamed gallbladder. Okay, we can also talk about hepatitis, which is inflamed liver. We see that oftentimes with people who are extreme alcoholics, or people who have issues with infections with things like hepatitis C or hepatitis B. It causes an inflammatory process inside the liver and sometimes requires even a liver transplant, okay? We also have something called pancreatitis. And I don't know if you guys are recognizing that the suffix is so similar. It's called itis, all right? So if you follow Dave Chappelle's skit, we talked about itis a lot, which is simply an inflammatory nature inside of one of these organs. So we just use whatever organ it is and the inflammatory process that's happening there. So hepatitis is inflammation of the liver. Pancreatitis is infection of the pancreas. Okay, so that's what happens here. Oftentimes with alcoholics as well, or people who develop an infection in the pancreas, it just is not able to produce its normal enzymes to help with digestion. That's really painful as well. Okay, so let's see, where are we? The small intestine actually has minimal disease, oftentimes. But what happens is that in here lives the immune system. Everything is connected, guys. I want to make sure that you understand that connecting the gastrointestinal system to the cardiovascular system, to the nervous system, to the immune system, all of these things work together. One system is not different than the other, all right? So that immune system here is oftentimes what causes problems, because there's so much bacteria, viruses, and fungi that we eat, not on purpose, but no plate is clean. The air is not clean, the water we drink is not clean. So the immune system has to be heightened in the small intestine, because that's where things transfer over into the bloodstream. If we allow bacteria, viruses, fungi, and other pathogens to enter the bloodstream in the small intestine, we can become septic. Septic means that we have an active infection in our bloodstream. All right? So it's important that this immune system be handled properly. And also, this is the reason why so many of us get recurring infectious diseases, because our immune system spends way too much time in the small intestine and not up here in the nose or the throat or the urinary tract or whatever. You consistently get these pestering infections because your immune system is preoccupied here in the small intestine. Okay? Large intestine, let's talk about this. So we got constipation. Talked about that a little bit. And just, we can give it the itis here. So the itis comes in many different forms. We talked about celiac disease, which is an allergy to gluten. That's popular these days, talking about gluten. Inflammatory bowel disease means that your immune system is attacking your bowel. Something called ulcerative colitis means that you develop ulcers along the inside of your intestine. All right? That's really painful and concerning, because you can't move feces very well. All right, and then we can talk about this. What do we know about having a bowel movement? The dreaded hemorrhoid, right?
Yeah.
Well, childbirth brought about hemorrhoids.
Right. So you're carrying your weight differently, obviously, and you're using the restroom differently. So that creates strain on those veins there, and that's exactly what hemorrhoids are. All right. So this is predominantly occurred because we don't defecate properly. Right? So before John Crapper invented the toilet, we squatted. Now we sit. So it's really important for your knees to be above your hips. So you need to be in a squatting position all the way down, so that you don't put unnecessary strain to excrete your bowel movement. Right? So if you notice that if you use a stool in the bathroom or squatty potty, that's become very popular, is on Shark Tank. A gastroenterologist created the squatty potty because he realized that people were defecating the wrong way. And so now it's conveniently wraps around the bowl, you put your feet on it, and when you sit down, now your knees are above your hips. All right?
Does that have to do anything with the lower part of your body squeezing this back in? Because if your knees are higher, it's going to put pressure.
Actually, it's the angle. So, and now that your sigmoid colon, or the curvature before your rectum, is at a different angle, and it allows for feces to pass without squeezing and straining to get it out. So that's the key there. So I want to make it a point to really focus on the immune system, because we talked about coronavirus, right? This is a huge thing right now. It's on every news channel. People are freaking out and trying to figure out how they're going to combat these viruses that they're coming. Guys, we run into viruses every day. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be concerned about coronavirus. What I am saying is that if your immune system in your gut is not healthy, you're going to be susceptible. So the best way is to boost your immune system and prevent the eventual, coming in contact with the virus because there's nothing that we can really do to prevent it getting involved. I'm not going to wear a mask. I mean, maybe that's something that everybody wants to do, but
Doesn't help.
it might help. Let's hope that it does, right? We don't really know until everybody around us is infected. By that time, it's too late, right? So the best thing to do is to have a healthy gut system and to ensure that your immune function is at its appropriate level. Yes, ma'am.
So how do you combat all of these things to be proactive? How would you combat these?
Great question. So, one, we're going to talk about the healthy fuel, right?
Okay.
So you want to get the best foods, the most nutritious foods, all right? And then you want to make sure that you have pre and probiotics, which are the natural gut bacteria like lactobacilli that are in the colon and that are going to help digest the food. They also release their own enzymes that are really great for brain health and mental clarity and things like that. So the other component is that you want to understand which foods take longer to digest. And you want to stay away from those foods because you want the digestive process to be easy and smooth. What is the ultimate goal, right? The ultimate goal of eating is to fuel your body.
Yes.
If you're spending more energy digesting your food than you're getting from the food you're digesting, you're at a negative balance, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if we spend this much amount of energy breaking down that steak and potatoes, and we need this much energy to function, all right, then that's overwhelming the actual value of the food that we will be eating, okay? So we want to make sure that we get a good energy expenditure from the food that we eat and that we don't strain the system going through. So if the pancreas and the liver are overworked because you're eating very fatty, heavy foods all of the time and you're never getting yourself a chance to properly digest them, then not only are you going to strain those, but you're eventually going to strain your colon because it can't pull out the nutrients or the water. So let's say, for instance, you're dehydrated because you drink too much Coke, you drink alcohol, you drink energy drinks. You're pulling way more water than you need to, which is going to eventually create constipation. All right, so that's really important. So you need to drink twice as much water if you have caffeine or alcohol or any sort of energy drinks. That's going to be really important. So the water and the type of nutrients that you consume are what's going to help make this process really smooth.
Okay.
All right. So I think that's it, guys. Any questions?
Is there such a thing as too much water?
So too much water in a short time period can be problematic, right?
Okay.
If your stomach is only this big and you drink 2 gallons of water and you force yourself, yes, you'll overwhelm the system. In that case, you can cause what we call low levels of some of your key minerals. So if you drink too much water, your sodium level is going to go down because you have more water than you have sodium. It needs to be in balance. Same thing with potassium and magnesium. So in that instance, you can drink too much water. But normally what happens is our kidneys adjust to how much water we drink and they're going to pee it off. So the more you drink, the more active you'll be and how much more you'll urinate. But no, not in theory, you can't drink too much water.
Okay.
Yeah. Normally your body will say, okay, that's good, I've had enough, you know, and then you have a chance to kind of catch back up and then you can drink more.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
One thing I've learned is that if you have the large intestinal area, you can have like polyps on your intestine. Is that caused from, and I was told it's caused from not having enough roughage. So can you kind of explain how that works, or is that?
So yes. So polyps happen here in the colon. We see them on the colonoscopy, right?
Yes.
But there's also something called diverticulitis or diverticulosis, all right, which is outpocketing like that. So you get these little pockets like that, and feces gets trapped in there, and it causes an inflammatory process, which is called diverticulitis. Polyps are a little small. They almost look like little trees that stick out inside, or some of them can actually be flat. And so that just comes from inadequate reproduction of cells there, right? So these cells, as you can imagine, they replenish themselves quite often. We lose them in a bowel movement every time. There's new cells that are being developed. Genetically, if they come out a little different, they're going to poke out like that, right? So a polyp is a concern for colon cancer, right? Or if you have lots of them, that's indicative of only a few, then there's not much to worry about. But that oftentimes is what happens. And in my personal opinion, it has everything to do with our diet and microwaving our foods and those sorts of things, which causes those polyps to develop because it changes the genetic makeup of the cells and they grow a little different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But polyps are, in theory, are not bad unless they overrun everything, and then that's when we start to see colon cancer. Or they grow, you've had them maybe since your 30s, and now you're into your 70s, and you haven't had them checked. And now they're big, and they're overwhelming, and they stop the process, right? That's what colon cancer does. It stops the process of digestion. That's the biggest issue. And so again, you're driving your car, you don't have fuel in it. What happens when the tank hits E? Boom, you're down. You're finished. So this is the whole system to process the fuel and ensure that you have enough energy to do what you need to do.
Great.
Is there a certain age or time that you should start considering getting colonoscopy, or
So
a certain age, okay, go get one?
what's recommended is at the age of 50.
Okay.
Is that everybody gets a colonoscopy just to determine where you are. Okay. Now, if you have a genetic history, a family history of colon cancer or any type of cancer, then they recommend that you might need to start at 45 or even 40.
Okay.
Some people, it depends upon what other family members, when they develop the cancer. So if you had somebody develop cancer in their 30s, then maybe that might even recommend you to do it even a little bit earlier.
Okay.
But 50 is the cutoff where the CDC recommends everybody to have a colonoscopy.
Okay.
Yeah. Just like I said, to see whether there's any polyps or anything, and to determine the overall health of the gut.
Okay.
I have a question. What do enemas do?
All right, great question. So enemas inject water or mineral oil or salt water or I've seen people do baking soda. I've seen people do a lot of different stuff, coffee enemas, and you just introduce liquid into the colon. So two things happen. One, you get to bathe those cells in whatever liquid that is, and that's supposed to be obviously therapeutic. And then secondly, we get we get these large blockages of feces that doesn't move very well. So when you add that water, you're able to break up that clogged feces and get it to come out. So oftentimes when people either are constipated, but I'm a big proponent for doing preventative enemas, which just basically keep a healthy gut. All right, so as that process comes out, you replace with pre and probiotics, right? So you get that healthy bacteria and the food and enzymes that bacteria likes to eat. And we create what we call gut biome. And a biome is just like the environment for bacteria, right? So you want to make sure that the environment inside the colon is susceptible and optimal for digestion. And so that would be the main reason why you do an enema, is to help either clean it out because you're clogged up, or you just want to wash it out and then basically replenish everything that's there.
Okay.
So I have a question. Basically what you're saying in listening, when we feel like we're having some kind of problem that is from that, it's more than that. When people say they have like a gut feeling about something, you need to listen to your gut and say, okay, I'm clearly not eating the right things. What can we,
Absolutely.
in terms of, you said something about preventative before, like what the kinds of things can we eat so that we can get a better, so we don't have all these itises and things that are all the red you wrote up on the board there.
Okay, so fiber is key, right? Another great point. So let's talk about this first. All plant products contain cellulose. That's a part of their cells. The human body is actually not capable of digesting cellulose. So when we have a bowel movement, what you see actually go into the toilet is primarily cellulose. Okay, it is the broken down plants that we've drawn out all of the nutrients, water, except everything else, and that's what's left. Okay, so the biggest thing is to eat foods that are easily digestible. That's number one. So we're talking about live foods, the things that my partner Darcia Houston is about to share. If we get healthy organic produce, it does not take a lot of energy to break that down, and 24 hours, that meal will be processed. That's about every 24 hours is when you should actually have from mouth to anus finished, right? So do some math. How many meals have you eaten in response to how many bowel movements you've had? Because you're supposed to have one for every meal. So that lets you know how many meals are still stuck in there somewhere waiting to be pushed out, all right? So green leafy vegetables, cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, those sorts of things are going to help to pass through easy, all right? They're going to actually push all the other things out. Minimizing your meat, not necessarily saying that you have to be a vegan or a vegetarian, but again, that chicken, that steak, that pork is going to take a longer time to digest. It has to actually ferment and then be broken down into those amino acids. Fish is a little bit different, but it still requires more energy than vegetables and fruit do. All right. If you think about fruits like pineapples, grapes, watermelon, those, they contain a lot of water. So obviously those are going to be easily digestible because they're going to add water as well as their nutrients. So that's important too. So yeah, those things are going to be the key. The fiber, the pre and probiotics, and just having digestible foods that are more than what you normally eat. So I just usually, if I know I'm going to have something heavy, I try to have something in conjunction with it that's not as heavy, that's going to make my meal a little bit more nutritious. All right. Another important thing, when do you eat? All right. So from 7 to 9 o'clock a.m. is the optimal time for the stomach to do its thing. All right. So it's kind of interesting because that's around breakfast time, right? And then 1 to 3 p.m. is the small intestine. So let's say you were going to have a cheat day, all right? You're going to have some pizza or burger, you're going to have some barbecue or something in the evening. I would spend 7 to 9 and 1 to 3 loading myself up. As a matter of fact, I would spend 7 to 9 and 1 to 3 loading myself up every day. Because those are going to be the most active times where you really can feed the body and be nutritious. So if I'm going to eat during these time periods, I like to have at least a little bit of raw roughage, either a smoothie or fruit in the morning or, something light. If I am going to do starch, something like a toast or a bagel or something like that versus a waffle versus pancakes, which I still like all of that. Don't get me wrong, folks. I love it. If you do 1 to 3, I like to have a salad in conjunction with that sandwich or with the pasta or with whatever might be on the menu. And then I stay away. I try my best not to eat before bed. All right. So normally if I have it my way, I will not have anything after 7. So cut off. So if I know I'm going to be going to bed, I usually go to bed after 12 to 1. Then I try to cut it off at 7, if I can. If you need something late night, drink a bunch of water. Have a piece of fruit. Have some tea or something like that that will help to cut your hunger until you break fast in the morning, all right? So that's really important too. The intermittent fasting is key, and that's what happens if you start at 7 and you don't eat until 7. That's a whole 12 hours you're giving your organs a chance to rest, all right? Yeah. So, any more questions, guys?
I'm sorry. You have one? No. I'm sorry. When you speak of the pre and probiotics, do you suggest that we take them in supplemental forms, or are there certain foods that can give us that?
Great question. So I actually would recommend both because it's really challenging to maintain that gut biome. So I like fermented foods, kimchi, kefir, sauerkraut. I love kombucha. Kombucha is my favorite. Okay. So I try to have a kombucha at least 4 or 5 times a week. Okay. All right. But in conjunction with that, I would definitely get the live probiotic and either put it in a smoothie, put it in a juice, in a capsule form. They have drinks. It just kind of is your personal preference. Okay. But you make sure that you have the pre in conjunction with the pro. It'll say that on the bottle. Okay. So make sure that the food and the enzymes for those bacteria is actually already contained in the packaging. Okay. That's ideal. Okay.
Would you recommend that for kids as well?
Yes. Yes. Now the dosage is going to be a little bit different. So you just have to read the bottle about how many millions of bacteria are in each dosage. And then you want to make sure that you've done that for the pediatric population. All right, guys, well, this is Trust Your Gut lecture number 1. Join us again in a couple of weeks on, let's see, that would be March 18th for the second installment of Trust Your Gut. We're going to have some great consultations and some things to share with you. We're going to have some live people who actually have these types of symptoms, and we're going to talk through it in real time. That will help you understand exactly what you need to do and what symptoms you need to be aware of for the types of illnesses that are associated with the gut. We'll see you next time.
All right, that was wonderful. I tell you, you're gonna love that. So that trust your gut, that means a lot more. It's not just a saying that you get that gut feeling. It is real. It's a physical reaction, and you know when you get around certain people, you get that trust your gut reaction too. So trust it. That's doctor's orders right now. You know what I'm talking about? So we're gonna move y'all into the next phase. So all that stuff we was talking about, what we're gonna put into our bodies, we're gonna talk about what those good things are, and more importantly, how you can grow them for yourself. You don't have to be dependent on somebody else to grow them, even though I know a great set of farmers, including the one that's going to be coming up right now. But being able to grow it yourself is the empowerment portion of it. So let's go on over to the other table here, and we're going to get into how you can grow your own food.
Hey.
Hello everyone, it's me, Major Melanin, here at Hey Healer. We just learned a great deal of information regarding the digestive system, Trust Your Gut with Dr. Hubbard. Here you're going to learn from your favorite farmer what it is you can do to also help with gut health. The number one thing I wanted to talk to you about is the fact that you know you can grow things from your grocery store, but you can also maintain things that you've actually grown on the farm. So, in my personal opinion, as a farmer, I would like to talk about beans. Beans were the number one thing that I could grow and I could keep forever. That's number one, because I've had these since last year. They are definitely Purple Hull. But the second thing is, definitely Purple Hull. I have some Purple Hull mixed in here. But beans are unique to gut health because they have the ability to hold on and be whole until they get into the intestines. They don't have to break down when the meat breaks down, but they hold the nutrients to break down exactly when we need them to break down for better gut health. The coolest thing is that a lot of people think that beans create gas, which is why they stay away from them. That is a cool thing if your body is creating gas. I mean, just don't be blowing it up and don't be stinking all the time. But if you are creating gas, that is showing you that your body is actually fermenting. And so eating beans on a small scale for, let's say, in small portions daily would prevent you from actually having a whole host of gas if you have gas with beans. But being able to grow the beans and being able to hold on to them and regrow them if need be is all sustainable when you're dealing with beans. Other things that you can regrow from the grocery store that are definitely beneficial for the gut this is beets. So I actually went and got some beets from Sprouts, and I cut the tops of the beets off, and I've placed them inside of various different pots, and I will not only have greens, but I will have some more beets here shortly. I've also taken all of these beets that I've gotten from Sprouts. They were actually donated to Wilmer, the mayor of Wilmer, and so I've taken them to other farms, and other community gardens will have beets in their garden as well. So it's one simplistic way that you don't have to wait for the seed to actually germinate, and then we have problems. Farmers have to work too, so you can't really always be there for germination, and that really hurts the plant sometimes. Another thing that we could talk about, definitely celery. Regrowing celery is a fabulous trend. I put it in some water right in front of the window. I've cut it off. I have some celery from, I'm going to come around. I have some celery from various different places. This is from a food pantry, and this is actually from the grocery store, but both of them went in the window, and they can be regrown. They will actually take root. I can put them right in dirt, as I did the beets. I just haven't done so yet. Another sustainable way we can talk about actually putting your hands in the soil regularly. That is a 1-a-day vitamin. The soil has all the minerals and nutrients that you need, so there's no need to actually go out and take vitamins or supplements when you can actually just touch it, and like raccoons, you're just tasting it, you know, and your body can get a hold of it that way. Other than that, we have pumpkin here, which is a squash, which is a wonderful greenery. But I regrew this from some pumpkins from a farm like 3 years ago. These seeds were from 3 years ago that I actually harvested and saved. I took this to DeSoto ISD's alternative school, and the young boys planted pumpkins for me. And this is another way that you can do right from the grocery store. I've been able to regrow sugarcane, of course, turmeric and garlic and ginger. The most cool thing for me with the talking about gut health, pineapples are really, really good. And so of course I did the same thing. I went and chopped off the top of the pineapple and I started to regrow it. Went to another school and they actually dropped all my plants. And when they put them all back together, they was, you know, like, sorry, but a garlic was in here. So now the garlic is growing in here with the pineapple, and they're both doing very well together. And then we talk about fermentation and how important it is, but fermentation sometimes can be linked to alcohol, you know, liquor, things of that nature. And because of this lecture coming up, I was actually researching, you know, other animals that like fermented things, and I came across the monkeys that get drunk all the time because they eat the old fruits when they fall. But what I never understood at that particular time was that every animal, every insect, all of them got drunk. They were all eating fermented foods, which were necessary for their health at this particular time and season because this tree dropped this fruit at this time. I'm talking about elephants was stumbling. The caterpillar fell off the tree. I mean, they had all of this documentation to show how, it showed me personally how important it was for us to have fermentation because animals and insects alike were, you know, like having this great party. Another cool thing that I know you have not seen and I've never talked about before, coming from Major Melanin, is I regrew corn. Oh. So I'm going to pass this around so that you can actually see. There's another seed in here. I don't know exactly what it is. It fell in, but that is corn. And it's just growing, and I got it from a food pantry. I went and got like 10 boxes of corn and I passed them out. I stopped at everywhere you can think of, the gas station, the bank, because the idea is that just because we have a job that we might actually be okay, that we don't need assistance, that we don't need or we can't qualify for EBT or SNAP or anything of that nature. Well, I have a degree and I have many different things going on in job titles, but I still am accustomed to utilizing food from pantries and free sources just because I know that I can regrow, if nothing else. And then I'm also helping empower other people. But Sprouts donated this produce and I took it home. There was too much, so I actually froze a lot of it, cooked some of it, and regrew others. The coolest thing though, y'all, that's not even it.
That was easy.
Corn silk. The silk that comes from the actual plant, that is what I'm also using now for tea. It has a wonderful benefit for the body, but I have been using this and it tastes just like corn with a little sugar, you know, or maybe add honey to it. But this is something that I didn't pay for. I got 10 boxes, y'all, and I got tea, I got corn, and I have plants. And each one of these are a seed. The other thing that you've never heard Major Melanin talk about is our actual categorization of our foods. So if we believe that this is a fruit, that this is a vegetable, then we are going to consume it in a vegetable-like way and it's going to break down such, but we might be combining it with a different type of food that is not, you know, it doesn't break down too well with. So the definition of a vegetable, that you can eat the root, the stem, and the leaves. Well, the definition of a fruit is you're only eating the actual fruit. So therefore a tomato is a fruit. So we don't actually eat all of the components, so this is a fruit. Corn is a fruit. So we have to watch the way things grow. Then we can know how to combine the produce, and then we have a nutritious meal. I don't believe that you can catch healthy because you can't catch sick, or you can't catch sick so you can't catch healthy. That's my theory there.
That was easy.
There we go. And then we have other ways of growing. These tomato seeds came from other cherry tomatoes. I just sliced them in half and actually buried them in this egg crate. And I have 6 tomatoes out of 12 that have actually germinated for you all. So using recycling certain products, and when I get ready to plant this in the ground, all I'm going to do is just tear this off and I'm going to stick it in the ground and let it keep going. But you do not have to suffer and or be without natural and organic produce because you don't have a way to the Sprouts, or you can't go to Whole Foods, or you don't have a car. If you can get to the Walmart, if you can get to the Tom Thumb or the Kroger or wherever it is you're shopping, you can do this too. This is collard greens. And I don't need that many. If we're talking about nutrients, it's not that I have to have a whole bunch of produce. I just need the nutrients. That's what the body's looking for. It's not looking for how much. And then you also want to spend your money with people that care if you can regrow. It's not all grocery stores will make sure that you have roots. I had to recreate these roots for myself, but they have other produce over here that when I went to buy this from Market Provisions downtown Dallas, this actually, it came with the roots. They wanted me to have it. They said this is the best way, girl, regrow. So now I'm just going to go home. I'm going to chop off all the tops of these. I'm going to put these in my window and I'm going to be able to replant these sooner than anybody else. Now this one I had to regrow all on my own. Got this little puppy from Fiesta. They made me do all this work. It took weeks, you know, but it doesn't cost you anything as a farmer to do this for your population. It's more work for me to actually have to cut this off. So I really, really want to give my money to an organization or people that want me to know, because these are also nutrients too. So I went to J. and Irvin Elementary School not too long ago. It was last Friday, and we talked about carrots. And carrots were not the only, they're also something you can regrow, especially if they give you the tops. So if I have tops, I can just cut it right here, put it in some water, and it's going to regrow as well. But just the ability to know that we have different carrots and different colors in life because they do different things for different organs. So my yellow, more for my liver and my bowel, reds more for my cardio and things of that nature. I'm also going to regrow potatoes. I'm going to let it, they say, girl, that's bad, it's getting bad. It's bad, girl, throw it out. No, this is my seed, girl. So keep it in. Throw it in some dirt. So all in all, I am Major Melanin. I'm here with a host of foods for gut health. I'm so appreciative that you've come out to learn more. If you have any questions or concerns, you can reach me at www.darciahouston.com. I'm author.darciahouston on social media, and you can call me or come to Hey Healer and see what we have going on. Thank you so much for your time.
So, didn't I say we had a great show for you all today? So, this is the Hey Healers Way. This is the first in a great series of community holistic wellness lectures we have for you. Again, we were talking about the gut, what it means to understand it. We got a lot of good definitions, a lot of information direct from a doctor who knows exactly what he's talking about and who cares to empower you as a individual to know what it is that's going on in your body. And we got introduce you to a farmer right here that told you all about the great goodness that you can empower yourself to grow your own food, how to take back control of that and make sure you're putting in that good pre and probiotics and staying away from them itises and tituses and whatever itis is. So we're going to keep this going. We got part 2 of Trust Your Gut coming up next time, and we also have plenty of other opportunities here at Hey Healer. There is yoga, there's meditation, there are herbs, essential oils, everything. CPR classes coming up. Yeah, we got so much. We ain't gonna give it all away. You just got to come down here and see about it, or you can log in and do it online, but you definitely want to come out and be a part of it so you can ask your questions. And for next we got coming up is a live consult so you can understand how in-depth you can actually go with these things. We even have opportunities for you to come out and learn how to grow. We got a network of community gardens in the southern sector of Dallas with the Oak Cliff Veggie Project that you can come out and we'll teach you how to garden, and you can get in one of those boxes and grow you a few of these things. If you don't have any space at the house, we understand. Some people don't have the space, might not have the time. We got the resources for you.
Grow in your window.
Exactly.
Get your life together. We can help you.
But come out and grow with us. You gotta learn. You gotta start somewhere, right? And it's better to do it with the group.
Right. Not only that, Tree. I mean, goodness, they got tea out here. They got like stones and soap, and you got smudge sticks.
You just gotta come and see it. Like, you can't just sit behind the computer
Come
and
get the
you don't
money.
learn everything that way. Come out and be a part of it. Touch it, feel it,
Right.
smell it.
Yeah, and then we're gonna have definitely can come pick up eggs from Hey Healer. We're gonna have baskets, of food. So you have all of the resources right here. When you're talking about, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to go, I'm just trying to, and then you end up back at the doctor. Come here. Come see what's up with us.
No, you know where the doctor is. We telling you where you can go, so you don't
Right.
have to go see the doctor. We bring the doctor to you.
Hey. Peace.
Peace. We love you.
That was easy.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Dr. Hubbard and Tyler. We're going to be talking a little bit about how we approach our consultations. So this is a new installment of our lecture series. It's understanding real live patients and exactly what we need to do to improve health. And so, Tyler, why don't you give us a kind of a brief schematic about where your health is and what you really want to accomplish by coming here to Hey Healer and speaking with us about your consultation needs.
Yeah. So right now I am vegan. I've been vegan for about, I don't know, years kind of just passed by. My daughter's 2, so maybe like 3-ish years. And I am still noticing though some like things that get a little caught up, that don't flow as regularly,
Okay,
like
cool.
more processed vegan food, like certain cheeses and things like that. So I wanted to talk about that, but also working at a school, I'm getting sick pretty consistently, like
Okay.
when there's stuff going around, but I feel like I should be like invincible, because I'm vegan, I'm always taking herbs, but I still end up getting sick. So I wanted to know if like sickness has anything to do with
Sure.
digestion, and then also, just I guess gut health in general.
Okay. So guys, there's really 2 types of main consultations. We have somebody like Tyler who's really healthy, maybe has a little bit of things that they want to kind of figure out, but in the most part, they're able to kind of go through their normal daily experience without any significant challenges. And then we have other people who really have acute and active disease, and we focus on really narrowing in on what's causing that disease and how we can give them some symptom relief. So let's just talk a little bit about being a vegan, because that's a hot topic right now, right? So let me say this. All vegans are not created equal. There's definitely levels, right? So it's important to note that you cannot eat meat and dairy products, but you still can be unhealthy, even though you're not eating dairy and meat products, all right? So just because you're not eating meat and dairy doesn't necessarily mean you're on your way to being healthy. You definitely need to incorporate healthy fruits and vegetables, raw fruits and vegetables. And so sometimes because people have a concern about the meat industry or a concern for the environment and for our wildlife, that they stay away from eating meat and meat products, but they eat soy products or processed foods, or they eat junk that just doesn't necessarily have meat or dairy in it. And so that's not really healthy as well. And that actually can be just as damaging to the gastrointestinal system as eating a full-blown American diet. So definitely want to focus on understanding exactly which foods you should be having and how those foods are going to affect you. Another important thing is you have to find your lane, right? What works best for your body? I had an uncle of mine who was a fruitarian for several years, and he said he had a brain formula. His was grapes, bananas, strawberries, and blueberries. That's all he ate for about 3 years, right? He said that he felt really awesome because those particular fruits work for his body. Everybody's not capable of something that extreme, but if you can have those types of fruits and vegetables that you know are going to be nutritious for your body, it's a great way to begin the process of understanding exactly what you need to do to be at optimal health. All right? So then let's talk a little bit about kind of being a little bit sickly, maybe having some, upper respiratory infections or congestion, sinus. This is so common, especially here in Texas. We have a high pollen rate, so people are constantly having nasal and sinus congestion and allergies. So how do we combat that? One thing is to really build and develop our immune system. All right. Another thing is to kind of goes along with what we're talking about today, trust your gut, is to have a healthy gut and gut biome. All right. So that's so important. So Are you taking probiotics?
No,
Okay. Are you taking prebiotics?
no.
Okay. So those
I
are going to
drink
be.
kombucha every
Okay, well
now and
that's
then.
great. So kombucha and other fermented foods are going to have really good like gut health properties. Particularly kombucha has a little bit of probiotics already there because
Okay.
you're fermenting and the bacteria help to ferment.
Gotcha.
All right, so definitely want to incorporate that. That's going to help to regulate the digestive process and also produce a lot of healthy enzymes that give us some get up and go and kind of provide a little bit of mental clarity. Okay, another key component is having a digestive cleanse. So there's all sorts of different cleanses. It could be a top-down cleanse where you take a supplement or you drink a drink that helps to eliminate, or you can use enemas, which are injecting liquid the other way and helping to pull stagnated waste out the other kind of way to, you know, encourage healthier, more robust bowel movements, okay? So we should really get it out. We don't want to be full of it, right? We have to totally get it out.
Can I
go ahead.
ask, how often do you recommend, like?
So that's so important, right? You have to determine what's most appropriate for you.
Okay.
What I can tell you is what's not good. What's not good is more than, you need to be having at least 1 or 2 a day. If you're not having 1 or 2 a day.
Oh, I'm sorry, I meant the cleanses.
Oh, the cleanses.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're doing it from a proactive standpoint, then occasionally you kind of know, right?
Okay.
I usually do mine every couple of weeks.
Gotcha.
You know, if I'm feeling a little sluggish, if I'm feeling tired, if I know I haven't had a bowel movement based upon my regular rhythm, then I'll throw one in there to kind of help. But you know, just kind of got to learn your body. To me, that's the biggest part of this whole thing is understanding thyself, right?
Yes.
Understanding what you need to do to be at your best and how you can be healthy. Yeah. So you're on your step to you're on the right track, obviously, by adjusting your diet, looking at more of a vegan lifestyle. And so another thing, you got to be careful when you're not eating meats and certain things oftentimes requires a little bit of supplementation.
Okay.
So like things like B12, sometimes we can develop something called pernicious anemia, which just means that we're not developing, we're not absorbing our B12.
Yeah.
So we can have all kind of lethargy and some other issues associated with that. So that's important as a vegan to supplement some of those things. That's another key.
Yeah.
And then there's something called GALT. All right, that's an acronym. It stands for gut-associated lymphoid tissue, and that's located in our small intestine. And so just like we have lymph nodes in our neck and lymph nodes in other places under our arms, there's a whole system in our gut that where white blood cells and other key immune cells, they live there.
Yeah.
Because they want to make sure that bacteria that comes inside our mouth and down our tract doesn't get into our bloodstream. So if they're preoccupied there in the small intestine, that might be why you're having a little bit of sinus infection and things like that. So perhaps it's time for you to have a little bit of a gut cleanse and see if that helps with some of the runny nose, the congestion, maybe some of the sore throat and things like that.
Yeah.
So those are a couple of things that I would recommend based upon the symptoms you have. Again, Tyler is really healthy. She's one of our practitioners here at Hey Healer. So she's on top of her game, but any and every time that anything happens, it's always great to kind of get a thorough analysis and understand what else might be going on. So I'm so appreciative of you kind of sharing your story with us today and what some of the things that we can do. Do you have any questions?
So with my vitamins and everything, I usually like to go the herbal route.
Okay.
Would you recommend, like for a cleanse, I'm concocting in my head, you know, what I can do, the dandelion, the burdock, or like yellow dock, where it's like cleansing for the blood, but also still builds your body up with lots of goodness. Is that a good route, or would you also recommend like a specific brand of?
So, I mean, obviously, a healthy sort of overall cleanse would be great, right? That's going to focus on blood, going to focus on, you know, liver and kidneys and things like that. But in conjunction, I would also say that a really good colon cleanse is going to be the focal point.
Specifically the colon.
And so, yeah, so any herbs that are going to encourage, you know, release of stagnated waste and focusing on keeping the colon at its optimal peak, that's really what's going to make a major difference in how you feel.
Okay.
Right? Now, obviously, all of our major organs need to be cleansed out from time to time, but specifically with the sinus stuff, with maybe some of the infectious stuff that's been going on, definitely the colon cleanse is going to be the #1 way to get where you want to go. So I mean, there's tons of them that you can try. Stop on by Hey Healer. We'll talk about it in more detail and figure out the most effective one for you.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Well, guys, I hope that you found this consultation to be beneficial. We'll be having these once every couple of weeks, and join us on Patreon. Come by Hey Healer. Contact us in any means necessary to find out more detail. Perhaps you could be one of the next consultations. We're giving them for free if you want to come and participate in the videos. All right. Thanks, and see you next time.
Hey Healer, so we have just wrapped up March Trust Your Gut, and it was awesome. Hopefully you get to join us for the next session. So as we previewed before, with the self-care community lecture series, we give you access not just to information, but we want to give you application as well. So we want you to definitely join in the whole session with us. Again, you will have paid access to this on Patreon. So we'll give you a little preview of what's to come, and then I'll need you to go on to Patreon. You decide what your investment is going to be monthly, and you get to get that meditation in your living room. All right, so right now I want you to join me, whatever you're doing, whether you are standing or sitting. Bring yourself to a place of stillness, feet flat. I need your arms rested, so fingers need to be free and loose, whether they're by your side or in your lap. And 3, 2, 1, at the sound of my voice, I'm going to say eyes closed. With your eyes closed, I want you to just follow the rhythm of your heart. So in the concentration in my background that I study, I've come to find out through Chinese medicine the belief that the gut is also a brain, being that it is a central place for your nervous system. It is believed that the gut speaks and the brain sees. So when we say trust your gut, all those feelings that come up when you feel anxious, when you feel low, when you feel flustered, when you feel uneasy, worry, and think about how dis-ease shows up sometimes in the gut first, because it's talking to you. And it's saying, hey, pay attention. Trust me. I need help. So with your eyes closed, we're going to bring our focus to our gut. And I want you to relax your shoulders, roll them back and down, straighten your spine, relax your tongue from the roof of your mouth. I want you to go ahead and swallow. And we're going to inhale through the nose for 4. And we're going to exhale, mouth slightly open, for 8. So we're going to do it together right here. Deep breath, inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. And slowly exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. And as you're still breathing, lightly, natural breath, I want you to focus on the gut. So when you join me, whether it's group or one-on-one, I'll always insert in meditation I am statements to make sure that we're affirming ourselves. And so wrapping up our lecture series, part 1 of the gut tonight, our I am statements. I am tuning in more to my gut. I am trusting my gut. I am worthy not just of this information, but I am a steward over my body. I am a healer. All right, when you're ready, wiggle your fingers, open your eyes, take a deep breath, and join us in the next video for a full meditation.